Off and running here inside the vault on a Thursday, November 21st. It is week 12 of this NFL regular season, and we're working our way towards Monday Night Football. And hard to believe, Sarah, my dad and I were counting up the numbers earlier today. This will be the fifth primetime game that the Ravens have had so far this year, and it will be the fifth and final. But remember, there's a standalone game as well on top of those 5 primetime games, which is coming up on Christmas. So needless to say, it's been a busy stretch. We hope you and yours are gearing up for the holiday season and whatnot. And we appreciate you for being with us here on this Thursday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. Mark your calendars accordingly. Tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern, that's Friday the 22nd, we'll have Chris Rim, ESPN Chargers reporter, joining us for our official game preview as we get ready for Monday night. So with that, we got a jam-packed episode coming up for you. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison. We've got receipt keeping to do right off the top. We're going to rank our top 5 AFC teams through 12 weeks. We're going to hear from Jim Harbaugh, not John, that's Jim Harbaugh ahead of the Harbaugh Bowl, round 3. Justin Tucker talked about a number of things with reporters yesterday, including addressing the operation of kicking head on and a number of other things as well. So good to see you, partner. How's it going?
Good to see you. It's going well. We both got our fall colors on. You've brought back the very controversial sweater today.
Is it yellow, or is it because it's the lighting above me?
Only you can tell us. Only you can tell us, sir. All we can say is what we see on our screens. True. But yeah, doing well. Don't forget Jack Harbaugh too. I got a couple audio clips from him because it's got to be a mind warp as a parent to, for the third time, prepare for this between these two sons of theirs. But Bobby, we got to get to the switch up on Lamar Jackson. That is just one for the ages. We've seen plenty of switch ups on Lamar because there's plenty of people that are just like want to be right, that, you know, he's not going to be great. That's what they've predicted, and that's what they want to see. The goalposts keep moving, but I've never seen a switch up quite like this. And Bobby, I did indeed find the receipt. I found the flashback.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's literally less than a month apart from one another. Yeah. And we're talking about Chris Russo, a.k.a. Mad Dog, who, of course, is on ESPN these days. And it really wasn't all that long ago that he was praising Lamar and also giving John Harbaugh credit for his controversial statement that he made from over the summer. Are we going to rewind or fast forward, or
let's rewind first? Let's just remember, I believe this was after the Tampa Bay Bucks Monday night game when Lamar Jackson just went off, just completely off. And everybody saw it, the entire nation, including Mad Dog. And this is what he had to say after that game later in the week.
I think that's going to surprise
you're going to pick Lamar over Patrick?
That's what I'm going to do.
No, you're not.
A 3-time MVP. Yeah. I am all in. This is by far this year the best quarterback in football.
Wow.
I have to apologize to Romo. I did a bad about when you weren't here last week.
He's
right.
Romo?
Harbaugh is a top 10 coach in the history of pro football. That's another one.
Okay. He's doggy. A lot of hot takes.
All right. So just to keep track, John Harbaugh is a top 10 football coach in the history of football. And this was just a couple weeks ago. And he would take Lamar Jackson over Patrick Mahomes this year. And that Lamar is one of the best ever. Okay. Now, I still think when all is said and done, Lamar will be one of the best ever. Okay. But that's where he was at. Okay. Just a couple weeks ago. Then, Bobby, Lamar has... How would you define Lamar's game in Pittsburgh? Bad is not the word I would use. It wasn't the MVP level that we've been accustomed to so far this year. Would you say he had like a...
Well, he called it putrid.
Lamar called it putrid. But what would you call it?
Lamar's the headline, ESPN put up a headline of this segment that we're about to play what Mad Dog had to say, and we're going to keep the receipt that we just played for you. And the headline adjective is putrid. I wouldn't call it putrid. I would say below his standard, well below his average. And for his expectations, for his standards,
right,
it was a poor performance.
What about across the NFL? Would you call it an average performance? You take it across the NFL? There's no interceptions. He drives the team. Go ahead.
There was one, but it wasn't on him.
You're right. I've already erased it from my mind because I know it wasn't on him. Part of me feels like it was more of a fumble than an interception.
You could do that. You could erase all 3 of them this year for reasons that we've already discussed. No, I just thought it was, league wide. Well, you got to look at all 32. There's a lot of below average quarterback play this year.
Right.
In the bottom half of the league. So
I'd say it was closer to average than I would say it was bad.
Okay. It's hard. It's hard for me. I'm really focusing on Lamar. You're looking at it from a league standpoint, 2 different views, obviously.
Right. Well, obviously from Lamar, it was below his standard for sure.
Yeah.
Point being, Bobby, he didn't have a 5 interception meltdown. Okay, which is what Jared Goff had the week before. It wasn't
in a winning effort.
He had some help for
sure.
Whereas all the pieces around Lamar were falling apart. All the pieces around Lamar with the penalties and at least on offense, the defensive part, Justin Tucker, the bad 2-point conversion call, all of that. Okay. So Jared Goff was fortunate to have everybody else brought their game. Okay. So, but it wasn't this 5 touchdown or 5 interception performance from which another MVP candidate did just the week before. And I heard a lot of people on TV say, okay, yeah, he's probably out of the MVP conversation, but maybe not. And they were kind of debating that. Okay. Here comes Mad Dog after what I would deem an NFL quarterback average performance from Lamar. He certainly didn't take things over and didn't play to his level. And here's what Mad Dog had to say just a few weeks after saying he would take Lamar Jackson over Patrick Mahomes.
Is a lot closer to where Patrick Mahomes is than anybody is to Josh Allen. So in other words, 1 is Mahomes, not 1A yet. Pretty close to him is Allen, and way down the bottom of the totem pole is everybody else. Lamar Jackson, who he never beats Pittsburgh anyway, his performance against the Steelers was absolutely putrid. He stunk, and I know he threw a touchdown pass to Zay Flowers. The 2-point conversion was a disaster. He overthrew receivers all day. Pittsburgh won a game, and they didn't score a touchdown.
No touchdowns.
They kicked 6 field goals. Now they're 2 games behind him, 2.5. If you look at the tiebreaker scenario, he's 1-5 lifetime or 1-4 lifetime against Pittsburgh? He doesn't win in the playoffs, and I'm telling you right now, that Josh Allen, that guy is so good. I mean, he's now beaten Mahomes 4 straight times. Hasn't beaten him in the postseason yet, but he's beaten him 4 straight times in regular season play. His performance on Sunday against them, like it was last year in the divisional round when they should have beaten them, and Bass missed a field goal to tie it, was great on Sunday afternoon. I am tough. Jim Harbaugh training camp. This guy is going to be one of the great quarterbacks in the history of pro football. John Harbaugh. John, here's what I want you to do for once. How about no penalties? Okay? They lead the league in penalties.
They do.
He killed them in the penalties in the Kansas City game and the championship game last year. He got unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. He was awful. And that penalty situation you were there. They were 12 penalties.
I know.
12 freaking penalties. I'm tired of Harbaugh, too. Harbaugh this, Harbaugh that. How about your team play a little disciplined football? And how about your quarterback make some plays? I mean, and everybody making a big deal about Derrick Henry. Last year, they had the top seed without Henry. This year, with Henry, they're going to be the 5th seed. So, I mean, where, in fact, has Henry made such a
wait.
One other thing.
What?
May I?
Yeah,
Steve,
go.
You can take those 2 MVPs.
Oh, here we
Absolutely
go.
not.
Don't say
And
it.
you can put them where the sun don't shine.
What is even the point of that last comment? Those last 2 MVPs, you can take them and put them where the sun don't shine. Why? What is that? What does Sunday have to do with his last 2 MVPs? I think
there's a banter and an inside joke between that panel where that's been used before, and that set them off. And so it's just the Mad Dog shtick. It's the type of thing where it's him trying to do what he does. Right? This guy is all over the place, as we know. He's a dynamic former radio personality, now turned to TV analyst, who's on there for hyperbolic reasons, who's on there to get people charged up, to bring in, you can call it analysis, or you can call it just, inflated type of exaggerated commentary that he's made a career off of. And so you can get enraged by it, or you can laugh it off, or you can feel indifferent about it. And I'm not going to tell anybody where to sit, but that's the Mad Dog shtick. He's been doing it for years and years, and I'm going to choose to laugh at it. How about you?
Yeah, I don't think he believes anything he says. Like, there's no way he actually believes the things that he says. Otherwise, that guy's got to be impossible to work with and live with. To swing from such far ends of the spectrum, it's like bipolar, right? It's like schizophrenic.
Well, Sarah, the wind's going that way. Right?
Yeah,
it's going that way. Okay, wait, it just changed. All right, I'm going this way now. Right? He's just all over the place.
No, he's definitely a feather in the wind. I mean, to go from John Harbaugh is a top 10, head coach to I'm tired of John Harbaugh to Lamar, I'm taking him over Patrick Mahomes to he's putrid, and then stick that. I mean, it's definitely a shtick. There's no way he believes the words that are coming out of his mouth. And that's the thing, though. So, like, is the lesson here that in order to get on ESPN, you have to have no shame? Is that the lesson here? Because do you think that he believes what he's saying? Do you think he believed 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, do you believe him that he would take Lamar Jackson over Patrick Mahomes 3 weeks ago and now tell him to stick his MVPs up his where? Do you think that he believes those words?
Of course not.
Okay, therefore he has no shame.
Yeah, it's very
then
much.
He's being disingenuous and he has no shame.
There's
so the lesson here is that for you to get up to be on one of the highest rated sports television commentary shows, you have to have no shame.
In some cases on that network, and he's not the only case of that.
Yeah,
we've covered it. That is at that level. It is so focused on image and following and ratings, and that's why everything's so heavily skewed towards Cowboys coverage. Right? What do the Cowboys bring?
The Cowboys network for sure.
Stephen A. Smith has literally made a living off of trolling the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
That is a ratings and market-based decision that the executives and high-ranking officials at ESPN are making in terms of how they allocate their airtime on a weekly basis, daily basis sometimes throughout football season. So, yeah, a lot of this is why I think folks have turned to, hopefully, outlets like us and other elsewhere that are kind of in the nitty-gritty and don't necessarily fluctuate as the wind changes.
All right, so that's Mad Dog. Over on the facility, they were talking about. Now, this one I have a more real question for you coming out of it, actually, too. So the guys are at the facility, and let's remember that Acho has he's an MVP voter. So I will say that he takes this heavily, very heavily. And so, but on this clip, I'm going to bring out James Jones, and the question was, if Lamar Jackson loses one more game, is he out of the MVP conversation? So remember, he's lost 4 games. Josh Allen, who is now in the lead, has lost 2 games. So here's James Jones' thoughts on Lamar in the MVP race right now.
The MVP hopes is out of Lamar Jackson's hands. Oh. So another loss really don't matter. And they will lose another game. They have been an inconsistent football team all year long. They have. They lost to the Raiders. You lost to the Chiefs. You lost to the Browns. You just lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been an inconsistent football team. Lamar Jackson has been the bright spot playing at a high level, but it's out of his hands now. And I say that now because he only wins it if he balls out and Josh Allen doesn't. Josh Allen has to lose games, and he has to lose more games than Lamar Jackson. So that means that Josh Allen has to find a way to lose 3 more games for Lamar Jackson to win MVP. Josh Allen is absolutely balling right now with a whole lot less than Lamar Jackson. So losing that game to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe the MVP for Lamar Jackson, his 3rd MVP, is out of his hands, and it's in the hands of Josh Allen. And if Josh Allen continues to keep balling, Josh Allen will win his 1st MVP of his career.
Okay, so I guess they presented a question, and then he kind of changed it a little bit. So I'm going to ask you both. Yep. So first, on his assertion, he said one more loss doesn't matter because it's already out of Lamar Jackson's hands. What do you think about that statement?
No, I think it's still in Lamar's grasp.
Mm-hmm.
it's become a major conversation and a competitive race as of this past weekend because things didn't flip. Things changed. It went from Lamar as a runaway and Josh trailing from behind to now it's like dang near close to neck and neck because of what Josh did to Kansas City. And of course, the Ravens laying an egg in Pittsburgh. So no, it's still within Lamar's grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But if this continues, and if they do indeed, as James says they will, we'll see, drop another game over the course of the next month and a half, and the Bills continue to chip away. And again, Buffalo is 9-2 right now. They're very much in the conversation to potentially have the AFC and the road to New Orleans from a postseason standpoint run through their place.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then sure, Josh is going to be the front runner. But as of right now, it's still Lamar's to lose. And we went over that earlier in the week, statistically speaking.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the stats here, I mean, it's crazy because Lamar leads or is in second in still the vast majority of quarterback categories. I mean, he's still number one in quarterback rating, and Bobby, it's not close with his 117.3.
And they're in the postseason, right, Sarah? Like, sorry to cut you off there. Like earlier, it makes me think earlier in the year, oh, why isn't Burrow in the MVP conversation? Well, his statistics are through the roof, but they're irrelevant. I mean, they're 4-7 right now. We'll see if they end up squeaking into the playoffs. But 7-4 is certainly not 9-2 where Josh is right now. But the Ravens are squarely in the postseason, also on top of these ridiculous numbers from Lamar.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll get to that in just a second. So anyway, he's number one in pass touchdown percentage, number one in total yards, number one in QB rush yards, number two in pass yards, just a little bit behind Burrow. Number two in passing touchdowns, number two in the yards per pass attempt, and number two in the touchdown to interception differentiation. And as it's noted here, he's hot in the red zone. Wasn't on that 2-point conversion because that wasn't a great play call, but that's another topic we've already debated this week. So Jackson has been especially effective in the red zone this season, throwing 21 touchdowns to 0 interceptions on 32 of 46 passing for 124.0 quarterback rating. Yep. Okay, so that's why the switch up. This is why the switch up is crazy. Bobby, somebody's being crazy when Stephen A. Smith is actually like later in that segment, he's actually defending Lamar Jackson, Stephen A. Smith. When Stephen A. is defending Lamar, that you've gone off the deep end. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is in reality what's still going on. Now, Acho was saying the reason why the question was presented as if he has one more loss is because Acho said that last year he voted for Lamar for MVP, not purely based off of stats, which is right here. He said record had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And so he felt like if Josh Allen was close in all these numbers, and he's somewhat close, then he feels like the better record would kind of be the tiebreaker.
Sure.
So, but my feeling is when I still don't, I feel like even if Josh Allen still balls out, because of the opponents that these two quarterbacks have left, Lamar can still snag it because, as I said earlier this week, it's about having signature wins and signature moments. The Bills over here, they have the 49ers left, which, you think is a good team, but they haven't been great. But okay, 49ers. And they have the Rams. They have the Lions, which is a huge game. He could really hold on to the MVP lead if he balls out against the Lions. But then he's got the Patriots, the Jets, and the Patriots again. That's where Lamar can kind of come alive. Okay, Lamar has this Monday night game. Then he's got the Eagles who are playing well. The Giants, okay, no big deal. But then he's got a rematch to the Steelers, Christmas Day against the Texans. And by then, if he balls out in all of those, I think he can regain it for sure. Now, if the Ravens lose one more game, I actually do think it's starting to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be tough if you've lost 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
Right. Then it becomes tough, even if you've got great stats, because that's what's against Burrow right now. He's got sweet stats, but his team is terrible, record wise. So,
and hey,
but I think Lamar has the better stage set than Josh Allen does. And that's why I feel like it's still within his hands. It's not only about Josh Allen. It's about what Lamar Jackson does.
I tell you what, no matter whether voters would admit this or not, I think there could be some recency bias involved here as well, right? And what have you done for me lately? Well, Lamar's done a lot. But this past weekend, when everybody was watching in that 425 window, the majority of the country was, Josh and company took down Kansas City. I think there's something to be said about that just in terms of when that game fell on the schedule. It just so happened to be during a down week for Lamar and company. Also, something that's probably immeasurable as well. It would not surprise me if voter fatigue was a thing here.
Bobby, that is for sure. I'm sorry to cut you off now. We can do it to each other here. I for sure think that that's what's going on. I think the switch up on Lamar after what I deem was an average game, quarterback wide, certainly bad for his standards. They're every single week. How many times have we brought it up? Every single week when Lamar balled out, they would still be like, oh, but is Jaden Daniels, is he going to be the next threat to Lamar? Like they're looking for it. When Josh Allen first had it in their week 3 game, they had it with even Dak Prescott. Then now it's Josh. It's now Herbert. It's like every single week they've been trying so hard to give it to somebody else so that as soon as Lamar gave an opportunity, all these guys are jumping on it. They are jumping on it.
Oh, yeah.
So for your point, that to me is behind the switch up too. It's not just that people want to be right. It's that they're fatigued. They want somebody new in there. So they're quick. I mean, it took 11 weeks for Lamar to have an average game. 11 weeks. And that's how quick the switch up was.
I thought Vegas was somewhat average, but yes, like a below average performance for Lamar where there was a lot of chatter around his performance, the opposite way in which there was constantly being talked about as an MVP candidate. Yes, it took 11 weeks. And now the NFL MVP, according to most sports books in terms of odds, is in favor of Josh Allen at plus 150, Lamar at plus 200, Jared Goff trying to keep his name in the conversation, as we've mentioned, despite the 5 interception win the other night. He's at plus 650, and then there's a pretty big drop-off after that with Mahomes, Hurts, and Kyler Murray rounding out that group as well. What did I have elsewhere? I had one other comment that just escaped my mind.
If I lost it for you.
No, not in the slightest. I was going to ask you why you feel like, based on some content that you watched, why Lamar could potentially be on deck, according to Warren Sharp, for a bounce back performance. And I'll just add this statistic in here, and this is, spoiler alert, why I will be picking the Ravens this week. I know a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes because you think that I have some mystical, weird, magical way of flopping these predictions. But Lamar in his career is 17-4 off a loss. I think that's a statistic that's worth hanging your hat on. What's Warren Sharp all about?
Well, there's one. Now, remember, here's what's interesting. So last week I brought in some charts that explained why the defense could have a bounce back game. Okay. And we talked about how Russell Wilson didn't like to throw over the middle, or he hadn't done so. And the Ravens were actually better on the edges. And so we had provided some hope through some charts that the defense would have a bounce back game. And frick, what do you know? No touchdowns allowed. So I'll let Warren Sharp describe this. He gets into it really in depth here, why he thinks that Lamar and the Ravens are primed for a bounce back game against the Chargers.
Steelers off to the right use one of the higher rates of man coverage in the NFL. One of the higher rates. Specifically, they love to roll out their cover one, and they do it at a very high rate, one of the highest rates of any team in the NFL. This is what causes problems for Lamar Jackson. They blitz and they play a lot of cover one. Now, the Chargers are on the exact opposite end of the spectrum here. The Chargers play the 3rd lowest rate of man coverage. They play a ton of zone. They are constantly living in zone coverage. So, Matt, go to the next graphic. Here is the performance in passing efficiency on early downs for all 32 teams. Man coverage on the x-axis, zone coverage in the y-axis. So I want to note a few things for you here. First of all is where Baltimore Ravens sit. Baltimore Ravens have the 2nd worst performance in the NFL passing the football against man coverage on early downs. You see it on left to right. Only the Colts are worse passing the football, man coverage in early downs. But Baltimore Ravens have by far the best efficiency when they pass versus zone coverage on early downs. They are significantly better this year playing against zone coverage compared to other years and compared to all other teams in the NFL. The other thing that you can note on this graphic that I like to do as I'm making and building these graphics all the time throughout every single week is the difference. So that green line that's running from lower left to top right, that is the line of neutrality, where you have no splits, man versus zone coverage, at least based on EPA per attempt. You see at the bottom left, we intersect the numbers there, minus 0.2 EPA per attempt versus man coverage and minus 0.2 EPA per attempt versus zone coverage. You go all the way to the top right, where does that green line intersect? Plus 0.6 EPA per attempt versus man coverage, plus 0.6 EPA per attempt versus zone coverage. No difference, man or zone coverage at all, okay? The further away you are from that green line that runs from lower left to top right, the further away you are in a perpendicular fashion, the bigger your splits are. And so the Baltimore Ravens are the furthest away from that line in terms of having the largest splits versus man versus zone coverage. So not only are they the best in the NFL against zone coverage, not only are they second worst against man coverage, but they also have the largest splits in the NFL.
Okay, so real quick, just to summarize, because I know this is getting deep, but I like this kind of stuff. I dive deep into the numbers here.
Sarah, look at Evan.
He's like, this is too much calculus. Let me just sum it up here. Basically, he's saying the Ravens are really good against zone, but it's not just that. It's that it's like ridiculously better in zone versus man, which is funny because I feel like before it was like, oh, you got to play zone against Lamar because you can't play man. You can't turn your back against him. So nobody wanted to, you know what I mean? It's like completely flipped. So I know that the Ravens have been focusing on beating zone and the blitz and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's why they're so good, but it's not like it's incapable. But his point is Ravens are really good against the zone, especially compared to how far they are from man, at least this season. Meanwhile, the Steelers played a ton of man, but the Chargers are on the opposite end of the spectrum, which he's about to explain.
Go to the next graphic, Matt. Okay, here we see, now you're starting to see this stark contrast being continued to be developed and fostered. Too high coverage. The usage rate of too high, you see the Chargers over there next to the Minnesota Vikings, or basically on top of the Minnesota Vikings, as by far the two teams that utilize the most too high coverage on early downs in the NFL. By far.
Like, look how far apart they are. You can hardly see the Chargers, but the Chargers and Steelers couldn't be more far apart.
They're in different neighborhoods.
They're in completely different. They're not even in the same city. They're across the country. Okay, not even close to each other.
No other team is above like 53%. They're above or right around 63% usage rate of too high on early downs. Look where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Lowest in the NFL. They don't use too high at all. They use it on 25%, the lowest rate of any team in the NFL. Next graphic. And look now at the efficiency gained out of too high. Too high is on the x-axis. Your EPA per attempt versus too high is on the x-axis. Your EPA per attempt versus anything other than too high. We're not just cover 2. It's all too high. Cover 4, cover 6, 2-man. That's all along the x-axis. Along the y-axis is everything else, right? Your cover 1, 3s, etc. And you can see the Baltimore Ravens are by far the number one best offense in the NFL passing the football on early downs against too high. And yes, they're still fourth best, I believe, against non-too high. They're still quite good. But once again, see that neutral line, that's the green line going from lower left to top right, and how far the Ravens are, how long of a line that light green line is. It's the largest in the NFL, meaning no other team drops off more in terms of EPA per attempt when they don't face too high compared to when they do face too high. They have the largest splits in terms of pure EPA. They're pushing right around plus 0.55, plus 0.56 EPA versus too high. Versus non-too high, it's right around plus 0.2. Okay, that's a big split. It's the largest in the NFL. So bottom line here is that the Baltimore Ravens, this is why Mike Tomlin has a lot of success against Lamar Jackson. He plays a lot of man coverage. He blitzes a lot. And this is what was my concern about Lamar. I've done shows in prior weeks discussing the fact that Baltimore and Lamar Jackson specifically has done a lot better against blitzes. But that is versus zone blitzes. Versus man blitzes, he is still struggling a ton, just like he has in years past. And that was a big question that I introduced to you guys last Friday and mentioned that Lamar's got to do better against these cover 1 blitzes. And he didn't. He struggled a ton still defending the man blitzes from Mike Tomlin last Sunday. But guess what? So that's like in the past. And it's going to happen the next time he plays the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's going to happen when he plays any other team that utilizes low rates of cover 2 and high rates of man blitzing. There are a couple other teams out there similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not many, though, thankfully, for Lamar Jackson. If other teams start stealing pages out of that book, it might hurt Baltimore's overall ceiling. But the Chargers are exact opposite of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You saw that one graph. Instead of running at the lowest rate of too high, they have tied for the highest rate of too high. And Lamar Jackson has the biggest splits against too high. This is the reason why I think Lamar Jackson is going to have a lot more success this upcoming week.
Listen, we just went from dummy analysis to calculus analysis. Okay. We just went from one with Mad Dog to another with Warren Sharp. But I think the point being, and you have to get into the nitty gritty to kind of like fix whatever issues you might be seeing. Why do the Steelers have the Ravens number? Why is it Lamar so great against all these other teams? But then it comes up. He's saying that the difference is man blitz versus zone blitz. That's it. Like Lamar's been great against the blitz, but it's been more zone blitz. And Mike Tomlin does the opposite. He does a man blitz. So that's got to be something that the Ravens go back to work for prior to the next time they meet the Steelers. But in the meantime, they're about to go against a defense that plays into Lamar and the offense's strengths, and that's why he is predicting a bounce back game. So I just had to even out the show, Bobby, to go from the dummy down analysis to the super smart analysis.
No, I'm glad you did. And you got to wonder too, does Jim Harbaugh and company on the defensive side of things deviate away from what's become their calling card and go more towards what's become part of the way that you attack Lamar this year and successfully, and that is in those man blitz packages. So good stuff. Warren Sharp, time to talk about our top 5 AFC teams. This is entering week 12.
Should we do a couple super chats?
We should.
Let's do a couple super chats, and I'm sure people will get in on their top. Start thinking about who your top 5 AFC teams are as Bobby reads through this.
It's as of week 12, too, just to clarify, right? We're doing it in the here and now in real time.
Yes.
Top 5 AFC teams. That's on deck. Christian Watson says Josh Allen has had a 9 for 30 passing game and 2 interception game this year. Crickets in the media for Allen, but Lamar is easy to attack. Why? Captain Hard says Josh can have the lowest completion percentage this year, and people will sweep it under the rug. Lamar expectations, not the same for others. Rossi says, this is all from our beginning part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Rossi says, seems like ESPN spreads negativity for more clicks. Captain Hard says, gotta agree, because Josh had better stats last year, but his record wasn't as good as Lamar. C says, if Josh Allen wins MVP, good for him, but Lamar's chasing a Super Bowl. DMV Nation dropping us $9.99 as he so often does. Appreciate the love. Captain Hard says, does the Chiefs run the same thing in terms of what they did defensively? Yeah, at this point in the year, we'd have to look at Warren's compiled averages. On opening night,
all we got to do is go back and look at his chart. I'm sure the Chiefs are in there somewhere.
On opening night,
I already got rid of his video. I'll look it up in his video. I'll look where they fall.
And I'm trying to remember what they did opening night as well, because there was a lot of open business opportunities in the middle part of the field, as you remember.
And there was for Lamar against the Steelers.
Yes, there was.
Yes.
No Agenda Hoops writes, Nick Wright has popularized attacking Lamar. It's Skip Bayless and LeBron all over again. The biggest problem is his co-host doesn't push back against the BS. Thank you for 8 super chats and counting. We've got over 1,700 plus of you joining us concurrently today. We are closing in on a big milestone, and that is 20,000 subscriptions. If you haven't already done so, we would love for you to subscribe, tell a friend, like the video, hit that notification bell. You know, all the good stuff. Did you find where the Chiefs tend to be within that?
Okay, so I'm on this graphic. So there's the Steelers, and there's so remember the graphic where the Steelers were way over on like the west coast of the country, and Chargers were on the east coast, and the Chiefs are closer to. This is defensive usage of 2 high safeties. So Chiefs are much closer to the Chargers than they are the Steelers.
Okay.
DPA drawback. Yeah, that's for 2 high though.
That's for 2 high. The other graphic in the initial part was looking at zone use, right?
Yeah, I haven't found that one yet.
And we can even do this. Oh, here
we go. Man versus zone. Chiefs are very close to Steelers.
Okay.
Yep.
Top 5 time. Let us know in the live chat. Top 5 rankings, team-wise, in the AFC. You
So
saw
now
Bucky
these,
Brooks.
yeah, these are NFL wide, but I thought it would be fun to look at before we give ours.
This will give us a little taste tester.
Okay.
Bucky Brooks entering week 12. His top 10 rankings: Detroit 1, Pittsburgh 2, Buffalo 3, Kansas City 4, Philly 5, Minnesota 6, Chargers 7, Arizona 8, Green Bay 9, and Baltimore 10. That is Bucky
Okay,
Brooks.
Bucky.
Top 10 AFC rankings, okay?
Bucky's getting
As
a little
far as
crazy
Stephen
around
A,
here.
Stephen A goes Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Eagles.
Okay,
Partner,
so I figured
say
we
you?
would just do AFC because I feel like that matters more, right? Like
That's fine.
we're more concerned about the playoffs and the seeding and all that kind of stuff. So
That's fine.
All right, what do you got?
Here are my top 5.
Okay, can you go
Top
5 to
5.
1? Go 5 to 1.
Sure. Top 5 AFC teams. Again, this is in the here and now. This is right now.
Going into week 12.
Yep. 5, I've got the Chargers. They're 7-3. Jim Harbaugh has reignited them. I think Justin Herbert's been unlocked. He's been able to overcome, at least in the early going here, some of the stigmas surrounding him, and a lot of it's been deserving, but there's been a whole lot of dysfunction in Chargers land since he landed there a few years ago. He's the prototypical quarterback. They got a stingy defense. We'll get into that in the game preview. I think they're good enough to be recognized as the 5th best team right now entering week 12. 4, I'm going Pittsburgh. And to me, it's for reasons that we discussed at length leading into last week. And that was really, well, what have you done yet? Do you have a true quality win? Well, certainly the Ravens were a quality win of theirs, and maybe their first of the year. To me, they have a lot more to prove. And as we've already discussed, 6 of their next 8 games, 6 of the last 8 games are all AFC North opponents. So they're going to get beaten up down the stretch. We're going to learn a lot about them. And to me, the reason why I have the Ravens at 3 is because I felt like it was the Ravens game and the Ravens' performance that lost them that game, not the Steelers that won it. For, again, reasons that literally all week long we've already discussed. 2, I have the Bills, and it's not because of, I know a lot of you probably scratching your head because of what happened on Sunday Night Football. It's what have you done for me right now? They're 9-2, or is it 8-2? 9-2, one of those two. And they're vying for top seed. Josh is doing more with less. He's got guys that are banged up, including the rookie wide receiver who's become a target of his, and Keon Coleman. And until somebody says otherwise, especially even after a loss and even after losing Harrison Butker, to me, Kansas City's earned the right at this point in the year to continue to be seen as, from my perspective, the top overall team, despite the numbers, despite Mahomes' performance, despite all of that. So those are my top 5. How about you?
Okay, so you were Chargers 5, Steelers 4, Ravens 3, Bills 2?
Bills 2 and Chiefs
Bills
1.
2. Okay.
Which notable teams that are outside my top 5, just as you get ready for yours?
Yeah.
Heuston,
Yep.
Cincinnati, and that's really all that's notable. Houston
Yeah.
and Cincinnati are outside my top 5.
Okay, so here's what's tricky about this. It's funny because you're going to be ranking people above others that have lost to somebody that's below them, because the Ravens beat the Bills, but they lost to the Chiefs, but the Bills beat the Chiefs, but the Steelers beat the Ravens. So there's no possible way that you can have this like as a clean ranking, because anybody would be like, wait a minute, but head to head, you know what I mean? So I was close to putting Chargers 5. Sounds like you and I just flipped Texans. So I put Texans 5 for now. And then Bobby, what I decided to do is do the rest of the rankings through the eyes of the Ravens. Meaning, who do I think would be the toughest challenge to Baltimore? Okay. So I put Texans 5, and then I put the Ravens 4 for now. Okay. I put Ravens 4.
Texans 5, Ravens 4.
Then I put the Bills because of the teams that are left. I feel the most comfortable about beating the Bills. That's probably because they already stomped them, right, from week 3. So
I'm writing yours down so that I can bring both up on the screen.
Okay, so I've got Texans 5, Ravens 4, Bills 3. Then I put Steelers 2. And again, it's not because I think the Steelers could beat more teams than the Bills, but I'm looking at through a Baltimore lens. I would rather rematch the Bills than rematch the Steelers. But the Steelers
Texans 5, Ravens 4, Bills 3, Steelers 2,
and Kansas City 1.
Kind of surprised that you okay, but you're looking at it. All right, I'm with you.
Because I'm looking at it at like who do I think would be the toughest matchup to the Ravens in the playoffs?
Okay.
Which I think is a little bit of a cheat code rather than just saying, who's the best up above. But this is a Ravens podcast, so why not look at it through a Ravens lens?
Okay.
So which part surprises you? That I've got Steelers too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Jack?
if I were not doing it through a Baltimore lens, like if for example I was doing it through like a Chiefs lens, I'd put Bills above the Steelers.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Bills just beat me. Don't think that the Steelers can keep up offensive wise. So if I were doing it through a Kansas City lens, I would put Bills above Steelers. But from a Ravens lens, I put Steelers above Bills.
Okay. Others, Monica says Ravens, Bills, Chargers, Lions, Chiefs. So she's throwing some NFC, at least one NFC team in there. Monica, we're just so you know, we're looking at top 5 in the AFC. Major media says Ravens, Chiefs, Lions, Bills, and somebody else at 5. Ravens fan 2000 says Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers. So again, that's a league-wide look. We're looking at the top 5 AFC teams, just to be clear. Who else is thrown in?
A lot of people are upset that we've even got Chiefs in the top 5.
Oh, come on, guys.
I mean, they've lost one game. Like, obviously, like their talent on offense, the offense is struggling, but like they struggled last year and beat the Ravens in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just can't. You just can't go against those results. Okay, let me ask the people who are saying that Chiefs are not top 5. What about if you look at it through a Ravens lens? Who are the 2 teams that have had the Ravens number over the last several years? It's the Chiefs and the Steelers.
Yeah.
How do you not, if you're looking at it the way I am, that you look at it through a Ravens lens, how do you not put the Chiefs in there?
Regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless of the way you're looking at it.
Sarah, they have a good D and that's it. Well, they have a good D and they have Patrick Mahomes.
Look, they're struggling
and that's all the Steelers have is a good D.
Kansas City is struggling through this year at 9-1, guys. 9-1. So
they said Mahomes is trash. This
fun discussion.
Now when y'all say stuff like that, and you guys are entitled to your opinions. When you guys say Mahomes is trash, you're doing the same thing to him that people like Mad Dog are doing to Lamar.
Thank you. Precisely.
Like we get so upset when they are like unfair to Lamar.
Yep.
And Mahomes and that offense is certainly struggling. But Mahomes is still a phenomenal quarterback. He's going to go down as one of the greatest. He's chasing Brady within rings. So you come out and you say he's trash. Well, then you have no room to complain when people talk that way about Lamar.
Off we go to Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. What do you got? I mean, I didn't listen to his presser, but I think you did.
Yeah, so Ravens Chargers, again, we're going to look into the nitty-gritty of this with Chris Rim, who's the ESPN Chargers reporter, coming up tomorrow in our official game preview episode at 12:30 Eastern. So we're looking forward to that. But I suppose this got a little bit of tread yesterday just because of the way that Jim built up his QB1, as you would expect any head coach to, especially when you have the talent that Justin Herbert has possessed. Has he realized all of that talent in the NFL yet? No, not quite yet. But prototypically, he was probably what you would try to make and concoct in a quarterback machine room if that was possible for a human being. And it's probably one of the reasons why Jim is speaking so glowingly of Justin Herbert.
He's done, like to your question, how is Justin, that's what he's been doing his entire career. He has the most completions of any quarterback in the history of the National Football League in their first 5 seasons. He has the most fourth quarter comebacks, in that time span of any quarterback in the NFL. So it is what it is. I mean, enjoy it. He's not only one of the best in the game currently. He's one of the best of all time. I do not think I'm going out on a what do they call it, on a ledge, on a limb. I do not feel at all like I'm going out on a limb and saying that.
Wait, I'm going to
not
pause
only
it.
one of the best
Smile.
in the game.
Ready?
Currently, he's
Get ready for the smile.
He's one of the best of all time.
Ready? 3. Right.
He knows.
Look at the side smile. You see that? Look at this smile. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Oh, he's on a limb, all right. He's on a
Oh.
limb, all right. Look at that. You're right. What a great way to pause that. That is hilarious. He's one of the greatest of all time. He's one of the, what did he say? Top 10 or just one of the greatest of all time?
He said one of the greatest of all time. And this was a fun listen. Jim is a fun watch. He's a fun listen. Here's the rest of that clip.
I do not think I'm going out on a what do they call it, on a ledge, on a limb. I do not feel at all like I'm going out on a limb and saying that.
Lamar Jackson, I know you mentioned earlier this week you see him up close, but what kind of challenge is he to have to defend? And up close, what have you seen that makes him so great?
He's great. He's at the highest level. I mean, he's right there with Justin. You know, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game currently. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League. They are. I mean, I would be like those two looking in the mirror when it comes to, you know, competitiveness and doing anything and everything for their team. Mirror images.
I don't know if anybody's ever said that Lamar and Justin Herbert are mirror images of each other. Woo-wee.
You gotta love this guy though, right? Like clearly, we know that in terms of what Lamar has accomplished, in comparison to Justin can't hold a candle yet to what Lamar has done, and so you heard it there. He's right there with Justin, referring to Lamar. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game currently and one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League. Sarah, what Justin has not been able to do at this point in his career, I think, to me, is the greatest separator when you want to compare him and Lamar.
Yeah.
He has not been able to overcome dysfunction within the organization. Do I think that there's been a lot of dysfunction per se throughout Lamar's career? No. In that organization, a few exceptions, of course. What I do think is that there's been a lack of a supporting cast around him, offensively speaking. He has been able to overcome that. That's a significant difference.
Yeah. Well, I still can't get over it. We need to have more reaction videos. That was pure comedy. What has he done? Have they what's his playoff record?
Well, Justin's done very little in the playoffs. Okay.
He said it.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to give me something good. I was like, what has he done? I thought you were going to be like, well, he's won 2 playoff games. You're like, well, he's done very little.
Oh, he's done very little. He's a 37-35 win-loss record quarterback so far through 5 years. Statistically,
say that again.
He's 30 as a starter.
Yeah.
So far in his career, he's 37-35.
Oh, woof.
Okay.
Barely above 500.
Right. Postseason record. Let's see. I mean, it's one game. It's one game. It's one game.
He's been in one playoff game. Did he win?
He's 0-1.
So he lost, obviously.
He's 0-1. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
mirror images of each other. Woo-wee.
Well, so Justin is one of the most aesthetically pleasing quarterbacks from a prototypical standpoint. He throws an incredible long ball.
Yeah.
He's extremely mobile.
Yeah.
And he's very, very gifted physically. He doesn't have the numbers to compete with Lamar. He doesn't have the accolades to compete with Lamar. Again, in no stretch are they in the same category. This is simply Jim building up his quarterback.
Yes.
Having a smile, a devilish smile on his face while doing so. And yes, I agree with you, Alejandro. There is oftentimes, because of the reasons that I just laid out, in my opinion, that Justin has been the media golden boy because of the potential. The potential is through the roof. Here comes Luke. Yeah, I want to date Justin because I'm telling you the facts. That's exactly what's going on, Luke.
These people.
Okay. you can't look at Justin and not think this guy is tremendously gifted. Lamar the same way. They have two different resumes. They are in two different stratospheres so far when it comes to resume, when it comes to accomplishments through the NFL. That's the facts.
Yeah. No, he definitely is like, when you talk about potential and talent, he's like the quintessential traditional quarterback prototype, which is why everybody's just fallen in love with him. And I agree, he hasn't had a great organization around him. I mean, he's had to have obviously a head coaching change. And I'm sure that's frustrating for him that he's maybe lost some years or whatever. But yeah, like that, it's still a funny, wild comment, but he knows what he's doing. And you know what? It's in the Harbaugh blood.
Yes, it is.
It's like John Harbaugh said that Lamar is going to be the greatest ever, right? And now Lamar has more of a chance because he already has 2 MVPs under his belt. And, he's in the running for a third, obviously. We'll see what happens with Super Bowls. But it's like in the Harbaugh blood. And I don't hate it. Like, you want your quarterback, who is the leader of your team, who there's no other position that has a greater impact on your win or loss record. And so you want him feeling that he can do anything, And he, I've seen other tweets where he said, he appreciates what Jim has brought to the building. And it's just like a belief system. And it's just like, you gotta turn a culture around somehow, and you got to do it quick. So you got to bring it in with positivity and vision and potential and letting them see what you believe in them. So I appreciate that about Jim, and I appreciate it about John, because they're both aspirational that way. And I think there's something to it as a coach.
Who knows? Evan just asked a question that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from this lens. He goes, was Jim referencing when John said Lamar was, or the vision for Lamar in the preseason is to be the greatest of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time to play in the National Football League? I don't know if there was any wordplay there. The smile suggests that maybe that's the case, or it was more so like, oh, I know what kind of reaction this is going to warrant.
I think it's more of that. Like, I appreciate Evan's like thought there, but when he's like, I'm not going out on a limb, like, and then I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw a tweet that said 4.5 minutes of Jim praising Justin Herbert. You know what I mean? Like I think it's more than that. It was more than just like a one-liner. That's for sure.
Oh, they have a bromance. Jim has built him up since the second he got there. Yeah. And Justin, having listened to his entire press conference in preparation for today's show, he's very, very monotone and very level-headed. Like, he doesn't say many things that are going to be taken by the media and taken out of context or whatever and turned into graphic boards and quote boards and things of that nature. But what he did say was it's actually been uncomfortable by how much praise he's received from Jim, because he's not that kind of guy. Like, he doesn't want the praise like that. And Jim's giving him all that and more. So anyway, I think there's 2 examples so far during today's stream of people who are saying things that don't necessarily wholeheartedly believe what's coming out of their mouth. Right. Jim may want to convince himself, because of what he's chasing and because of what he's trying to do in Los Angeles, that he has one of the best of all time at the quarterback position. And hey, all power to him. But we know in the realist world that that's not been the case so far through 5 years of Justin Herbert. And Mad Dog sure as heck knows what he's doing is just with the breeze. He's going as the breeze goes. Yeah. So anyway, two very different examples there, but maybe within the same realm.
So what did Jim have to say about John?
Well, we've got other super chats as well. Right. And we may need to cut back some content here as well, since we're up against it. But Dream says Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow have all had number 1 wide receivers, yet get some excuses by the media. Lamar loses one game, and he's the fault of every loss. Not a fan says off the top of your head, tell me the last game the Ravens won when Lamar played like trash. Chiefs have 4 of those this year. Ravens 54th man says Gruden dropped the Ravens versus Chargers breakdown. The theory. Mm-hmm. Could the extra pounds, number 9 gain in the preseason, have went to his legs to affect his kicks? #Vault.
Did he gain?
Justin,
weight?
I think more so joked about that. I do remember what Ravens 54th man is referring to. I thought that was a joke, but could be wrong. Lil X Nation said, us not getting a bye in the playoffs will help more than it hurt us. We just need to go out on a hot streak before then and ride the wave to the AFC Championship game. Get hot and stay hot this year. Ian says Mahomes' stats this season are way down, turnover prone. That's true. Still 9-1. Dream says, I feel that Lamar is in his own head when he plays Kansas City and Pittsburgh. A player this great should always be able to figure it out. Those are the wrong games to try and win the way they've always said he couldn't. Captain Hard says, with his top 5 teams from 5-1. Texans, Chargers, Steelers, Bills, Chiefs. We don't deserve to be in the top 5. Sorry. And we are fully caught up.
Cool.
Do you want to hear what Jim had to say about his brother? It's mostly love. It's just loving. Maybe we'll add it into our game preview tomorrow if we have time. We're probably not going to, because actually we're going to have reactions from Harbaugh and Lamar's press conference. But tomorrow has the chances of being very long, just so you guys know. We'll do our best to button it up. But Jim Harbaugh was obviously very complimentary of John, talked about his drive, his competition. We know how competitive of a person he is, and said that he's learned a lot for him.
But I do want to just do one quote from Jack. So he was on the lounge. They put out that episode this morning. And so what's the communication like between him and his sons leading into this game?
I'm sure it'll be about the way it was in the Super Bowl too. You know, my nerves were good until kickoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Once the ball was kicked off, and then all at once your body goes into a different mode. You know, one of absolutely nothing that you can do personally to affect the outcome, but you're emotionally charged.
Are communications cut off? Are they trying to use you as the go-between? You know, John's calling you, say, hey, what are things looking like over there in LA this week? Like, what are the conversations like between the three of you?
Totally silent.
Really?
I got I talked and texted back and forth with John and Jim after their last game, and kind of talked about the game and the 2 games, and then Monday morning it was shut down. We haven't communicated on the phone. We haven't communicated in any text back and forth, and that's good, because and I haven't looked at any tape.
Okay, so he's staying out of it, Bobby. It's totally staying out of it, not watching tape. So much so, this is interesting. I remember him and Jackie at the Thanksgiving game, and then obviously they were there at the Super Bowl. They are not going to this game. They are not going to this game. They're going to be in Florida with their daughter Joni and their family, and then they're going to have Thanksgiving there. And what's funny is this Thanksgiving week, they're also celebrating, I think he said, their 63rd wedding anniversary.
Well, it's the day of, right? It's the day of kickoff.
Is it the day of Thanksgiving?
It's the day of kickoff. Yeah.
The day of kickoff. Okay.
Yep.
So they were like, well, we just haven't seen Joni in a while, so we're gonna go. We've neglected them, so we're gonna go down there. And it's like, okay. But first of all, I know it was miserable for them Super Bowl day, because I interviewed him about it, and it was hard. It was hard on them.
I mean, all you got to do is hear from Jim. You pulled this in.
Yeah, he said walking off the field at the Super Bowl, it was like there will be another day, and then there wasn't for many years. It looked like I wouldn't have a chance for another day, but by the grace of God, we're back in it and back on a team that has a chance. So you better believe, because he lost Thanksgiving Day and he lost the Super Bowl to his older brother. Lots of older brother, younger brother analogies we've had this week. So he wants it badly, but here's what's crazy. So Ryan and Garrett over at the lounge were surprised they weren't going to go to the game. And he's like, well, will they come to you guys for Thanksgiving? Because you guys will have time. The game will be over. Will they come to you? And he's like, well, let me tell you, that first time that we celebrated Thanksgiving, because it was in Baltimore, John offered for everybody to come over. Let's have Thanksgiving dinner and we'll celebrate the wedding anniversary. Jim, after he lost, didn't show up. He flew back home. The plan was for him to be there. I think Jack and Jackie have learned that, like, being there is not being helpful to anybody. No. So let's just all be in our separate, like, we'll watch it with Joni in Florida on the other side of the country. I'm not talking to anybody this week. We just got to let the brothers duel it out. Yeah. It's got to be a mind warp to be in his position. Like, to watch like I watch my kids compete all the time, and like sometimes you're like, oh, I want him to go. Oh no, he's down. I want him to get back, and then.
Yep.
But it's like professional level. Like it's the whole world is watching. Like I get why they aren't even going to go.
Tell you what, 63 years of marriage should be
That's awesome.
celebrated. Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Harbaugh. That's freaking awesome. So, as for Justin Tucker, he met with the media yesterday, and we know we've discussed a lot of Justin this week. But here is the man himself talking about how much this funk has weighed on him.
I do take it very personally. Anytime I leave a kick out there, it bothers me. For all the fans, supporters, coaches, players, anybody that cares about Ravens football, believe me when I say nobody takes it more personally than I do. Nobody is more affected than me when I miss a kick. So yeah, I take it really personally. At the exact same time, my particular line of work requires, in my opinion, that I compartmentalize my feelings and I leave them to the side and I focus on the action of kicking the ball and not the consequence. So as difficult as that may be at times, that is the challenge that I'm facing right now. That's my only option, is just continue to work and focus on the action, focus on the process, and let the results take care of themselves after just putting in the work.
And Sarah, the much talked about operation that goes into the kick
are doing a good job. They're doing a good job, and whenever I miss a kick, it's because I let one get away. And I've said this before, and whenever we make kicks, it's because all of us are doing exactly what we need to do to make kicks.
All right.
Well, he said when we miss, it's me. When we make it, it's us. So it's a good teammate. It's his birthday today, Bobby.
It is. Happy 35th to number 9. A lot of people think that he's just fallen off. The distance wouldn't be there if that were the case.
Right.
He's got to figure it out why everything's sailing left. I think he will. If I'm a betting man, I think he will. Happy birthday to Justin. 72% make is not where he wants to be. He takes it personally. Clearly, it's on him. Steelers Sunday is on him. He knows that. It's a 2-point score. So
it's a good week, a birthday week, to bring back some good vibes. See if we can get it turned around. Meanwhile, the Ravens had a practice yesterday, but they didn't have to give out a practice, or they didn't have to give out an injury report that will start today since it's a Monday night game. 4 Ravens were missing. Roquan Smith with that hamstring, not surprising. Arthur Mollett with the calf. Travis Jones with the ankle. And then Sanusi Kane also with an ankle. Eddie Jackson was practicing. He did not travel with the team. And so was that Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
He's got that dog in him.
Yes, he does.
So,
gosh, does he ever. And he is going to get a boatload of money from Eric DaCosta in this organization when he is up for that contract renewal.
That hamstring for Roquan, he's nothing but rest. Nothing but rest. He doesn't need to be out there. Just let him rest it up, because as he has not been playing up to his standard, as bad as that's been, it would be worse with him not out there.
Be pretty surprised if we see him at all throughout this week. You said something similar earlier on as well. Deontay Johnson, as we know, since being acquired at the deadline, has had a quiet first 3 games, as Ken McCusick takes a look at here. Just 33 snaps logged, 4 targets, a reception, 6 total yards. They went to him early, Lamar did, on that opening drive in Pittsburgh, trying for maybe a little reuniting message sent, but did not work out. Lamar sailed that one out of bounds. Ken writes, he remains insurance for an injury to Flowers or Bateman, knock on wood. But Aguilar, 74 snaps, and Wallace, Tylan, 41, have both played more in the last 3 games. And Sarah, not that this is cryptic, but yet another tweet, the first one was a little bit, from Deontay Johnson in his many weeks, just kind of throwing out maybe some motivation to himself. He writes, when we are battle-tested, we must look nowhere but at the man in the mirror. We got to work on us, the individual. When the situations get tough, we got to evaluate ourselves and challenge ourselves to be better. Damn the outside noise with a 100 emoji. So
he's going to have to continue to do that. I just don't see, unless there's an injury, him getting many more opportunities. And that has never been my expectation. With Tre'Davious White, we knew the opportunity would be there. We just didn't know if he'd be able to play up to expectations.
Sure.
So we knew the opportunity would be there. He sees the opportunity. He played well. The opportunity is not there with Deontay Johnson. I mean, everybody's screaming about giving the ball more to Derrick Henry. That's going to be a much higher priority than Deontay Johnson. And so is Flowers and Likely and Bateman and everybody else. So he's going to have to settle in.
Oh, especially when you got a guy that's earned the right to, of course, be Baltimore's wide receiver one, and that is Zay Flowers. He's a top 5 statistical wide receiver right now, league-wide, by the way. And the most explosive receptions, which are gaining 15-plus yards through Week 11, according to PFF. Well, Zay's on this list as well with 22 of those. Justin Jefferson leads the way with 26. Why wouldn't Jamar be on this? Of course, Jamar Chase is on this list. The Ravens helped him out with this list. He's got 23. Darnell Mooney's got 23 in Atlanta. And again, Zay has 22.
See, Bobby, it's because of stats like this, which we love, that I honestly believe it's hard for Todd Monken to just keep letting Henry run, early for 2 yards or 1 yard or 3 yards. But that's the way he builds up so that you're overpowering people in the fourth quarter where they're tired of hitting you and they start making business decisions. Yep. It's hard to do that in the second quarter when you have a receiver on here who's in the top 4 for most explosive receptions. Exactly. It's like, okay, well, if we're going to get 1 yard there, why don't we try to go do something explosive with our, jitterbug here? So
it's going to be white on white come Monday night in Los Angeles. Game day threads. Ravens account just put this out right before we came on the show. 8:15 kickoff at SoFi. And, of course, chapter number 3 of the Harbaugh Bowl, like you referenced earlier on, John, is 2-0 against Little Bro. November of 2011, 16-6 the final, Ravens 49ers. And we all remember, and Sarah was in the building for this one down in New Orleans, February of 2013, the second ever Super Bowl title for the Ravens franchise, 34-31 in an instant classic, lights out, everything that one had. The late Jacoby making it happen. Joe Flacco gets his Super Bowl MVP. What a night that was. Look at those two looking at each other dead in the eye. Jim's got John beat in the height category ever so slightly. Just drenched with cameras and media. Oh, that was an unbelievable night. I was February 20. I was a senior in high school. I remember watching that entire game. That was incredible. I can't believe you were there.
You were a senior in high school in 2011?
2013.
Oh,
you don't want to know what I was in 11.
My gosh,
I was younger
you
than
were
that.
a sophomore in 2011.
Yeah,
I was definitely with the team for both of these. Definitely.
That's friggin' awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Very cool. So.
Oh, it's. There's so many. We're gonna have to get into this more on Friday and Monday because we have Monday to do a show before it also. But just think about the personal connections between Jim. That quote I just read said he was nervous he wasn't going to have a chance again to come back and beat his brother. Now he's got a chance. So there's the Jim element. There's the Gus element. There's the JK element. And all the other former Ravens that are out there. We joked all offseason that it was the LA Ravens out there. So, yeah, to E-Man's point. And E-Man, we already sent you your T-shirt, so be on the lookout for that. But he says, will this be an emotional game for JK and Gus? Nobody talking about that. Did they talk yesterday, Bobby, or are they going to talk today?
I expect everything. It's going to be a boatload of content towards the end of the week because nobody's spoken on the LA side of things besides the head coach and the quarterback. So
okay.
So yeah,
they're probably going to have open locker room today, I bet, out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And like you said, E-Man was yesterday's homage T-shirt giveaway winner. So good stuff, E-Man. Be on the lookout. We shipped it out yesterday, or Kevin did from homage. So appreciate the super chat. Pen 15 Shaft says Bobby Realist is the realist. Oh, I like that. Dream says, and
finally you got a nickname that you like.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Bobby Realist. It doesn't rhyme though, so nobody's gonna hop on board with that. I mean, nobody's gonna say anything about that. We're fully caught up on super chats. Couple notes that I have as well. Chris Horton, for whatever it's worth, Tom Pelissero puts out an annual what he refers to as candidates for the coming cycle, which is the hiring cycle for head coach, which is not all that long away whatsoever, Sarah. And on his list as a primary candidate, there was a few of them on there, is Ravens special teams coordinator Chris Horton. He was mentioned over Todd Monken. Now, Todd was mentioned, but he wasn't one of the primary ones that Tom put on there. So Tom does this every single year. He had a ton of names on this list. It is a deep dive look at the entire league from an assistant coach standpoint. And Chris Horton found his name in there. So obviously the last 2 years, statistically speaking, rankings-wise, not been good. Been below average, below the Ravens standard when it comes to special teams excellence that we've grown accustomed to seeing. So
that's why it's pretty surprising. It's like the Ravens have been great at special teams for a while, especially under Rosberg, and it hasn't been as good, especially the last 2 years, as you pointed out. And so it's like interesting.
Yeah. We'll also mention, as a reminder, just in case you weren't on the stream earlier on, we will have our official game preview, and our Chargers guest by the name of Chris Rim, ESPN Chargers reporter. He used to work in the Baltimore area, so looking forward to getting him on tomorrow. That's Friday at 12:30 Eastern. Tanner Mashburn and Jaron Fonville are this episode's Patreon title sponsors of ours, our shout-out level tier sponsors. So thank you to Tanner. Thank you to Jaron. We appreciate you guys, all the support that you give us, and for being part of the Vault Patreon community. If you guys are interested in doing so as well, you can join for as little as $1.99. It helps us out immensely on the back end. We really appreciate your support. Shout out Tanner. Shout out Jaron. You and I will be back under 23 hours from right now for our Friday edition. And like you said, we'll also have Monday as well, 12 noon, 8:15 kickoff. It's going to be a barn burner. Here we go. Let's go. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Predictions and all that. It's good stuff tomorrow. Like the video on your way out. Please, we are closing in on that 20,000 number. 20,000 subscriptions, which is awesome. 2.5 years, not even into building this. Partner, great show. As always, appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Great show. Can't wait to do it again tomorrow and see what all these guys in the locker room have to say about this game. So we'll have all that tomorrow for sure.
I'd have to think JK is going to have a few things to say. If he's still the guy that we remember him as, he's going to have a few things to say.
He's going to have some words. Gus, maybe not so much.
Gus ain't going to say jack.
JK will speak for both of them.
Gus is going to do that all behind closed doors. We already know how he goes. 2,100 plus of you concurrently watching us right now. Please like the video on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell if you haven't. And for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Thursday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream edition. We'll be back with you on Friday. And as always, thanks for joining us here inside the vault. Catch up soon.